First off, I mean, it's hard to make a movie, I'm assuming, from the outside looking in. And then on top of that, it's hard to make an awesome movie. What's it like, Adam, for you to be part of a really awesome film? And just what kind of feelings are you going through just with the final product, I guess?
Dude, well, it makes me feel really good that you feel it's awesome too. I mean, we sit with it, we do this thing, and we hope that it's good, and you hope that people enjoy it too. Like, I mean, Bruckner's such a freaking like tour, man. Like seeing Night House and The Ritual, like he's just really great. But it's like you're hoping that outside of this world, people love it too. So I'm really glad that you enjoyed it. But yeah, I had such a good time doing it. I mean, I'm a big horror fan, and so like it was kind of a dream of mine to be able to like sort of be in a world like this. I'm also something that's like such sort of sacred IP, and I just think David did a really great job, not only like sort of taking from obviously like original iterations of this movie, but also mostly like the novella and kind of putting his own spin on it. So I felt very honored to be a part of this.
Adam, you mentioned sacred IP, and I'm going to confess, even though I'm a Gen Xer, I still haven't seen the original or the novella. Just what I'm so excited. I know I'm
Yeah.
what can I learn from after watching this? Is it good? Should I be excited for the original and that IP?
I think so. I mean, but what's kind of cool too, I'm like, whoa, but like it invites like new viewers in too, because, the main protagonist, she's like, actually, as we start off, just kind of dealing with addiction and sort of like recovery. And so I feel like she kind of acts like brings a little bit of like a carrot into like people who maybe are like looking for a little bit more of a character driven story. And then it sort of takes a dovetail when she finds the box, and then it opens up everything. But it really does start with like the human aspect of just like this girl kind of trying to like deal with living with us and like under these new rules and everything. And so I think it's kind of a nice way of like a conduit for people to kind of like come in that maybe have never seen it. It's not, as we started, trying to kind of like remake anything that Clive Barker did before. It's very much like we're starting with a new story and inviting people in that have never seen it. And then I think, after, hopefully people will be excited enough to want to go back and, sort of watch, especially the original, because I think those first two definitely kind of influenced a lot of what Bruckner was kind of trying to go for. And also, again, the novella. So hopefully they'll be excited to kind of like go back and revisit those ones or visit them for the first time as well.
Bruckner creates such an immersive world, but I really appreciated that there weren't really exposition-laden scenes, especially with your character. Everyone's dealing with trauma. I love how that's kind of cut out. It's really hard to deal with trauma when you're trying to survive, right? Is that, can you speak to that? I mean, I thought that was awesome. It's just go forward.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I think it was like literally like we talked a lot about it, but he's like, I don't want this to be one of those movies where we get stuck in exposition land and then have to explain. He's like, it actually, he would always say, we turn into fantasy when we start explaining too much of the lore, which I thought was really interesting. I never heard it explained that way. He's like, I want to explain just enough, but I really want to get into the meat of it, and then it's like he likes people asking questions. So there's not all going to be answers in this, which I think is also exciting because it also leaves it open. And, hopefully if one day there's another iteration or, like a sequel, like it's like he really is like, in this movie, we're going to set the tone and we're going to give you some exposition, but we're not going to hold your hand. We really want you to just like kind of be along and sort of want more from audiences. I think like there's a huge sort of like push right now for over explaining things or like dumbing it down for audiences, but like I feel like we have to hold them to a higher standard.
Another strong aspect of Hellraiser, it's stating the obvious. It's absolutely terrifying. So, yeah, in celebration of Halloween and Huluween, can you name one of your all-time terrifying cinematic movies and what makes it so scary for you even to this day?
God, I would say one of my like, oh gosh, I'd say 28 Days Later is probably like one of like the most terrifying still movies to me because they do such a good job. I mean, maybe similarly to this, but they do such a great job at developing those characters in such a short amount of time. And then you really are kind of rooting for them. And I think probably the most terrifying part of that movie might be when he wakes up. And I have chills now when like Cillian Murphy wakes up and the entire hospital is abandoned, and there's no one in the streets, and he's just walking around like, what has happened? You know, no one, like there's not a soul in the streets. And there's something really like kind of terrifying about sort of like the absence of people and sort of like of humanity, and like kind of then like what you do and like what's the next step in that. I think movies like that and the original they sort of play with that a lot, of the disappearance of the kids and just sort of like the horrifying nature of like waking up and like everybody's just disappeared. You know, it's really terrifying. So yeah.
Yeah, and just quickly, last question.
Yeah.
Everyone says like Bruckner is a very talented filmmaker. I can say that watching it, but you're there on the day working. So just from your observation and learning, what did you learn from him, and what makes him so unique?
Gosh, Bruckner will get down in the weeds with you, man. He's not afraid, like, you know, ninth hour or whatever, to get down in there and be like, okay, so like we're in it. And every scene, he's so specific because he knows where everything is going. And so like every moment was so specific and filled, like even down to his scream. He was like, the scream maybe is even in this timbre because like, you know, this is sort of like what's happening. And sometimes like I wouldn't be able to see, there's like certain things that like were special effects that I was like, oh, okay, so this is what's actually happening. But he's like, everything was so specific, and I really appreciated him for that. And like, he would just get down in there with us, so I appreciated him for that. He's really a great guy.
And I really love the film. Thank you so much for your time, and just good luck with this. I hope this movie really hits it because I loved it. So
I hope so too. Thank you, Greg. Thank you for saying that, man.
You take care, man.